it going?
I'm good. I'm getting better at introductions, I think. I keep them short. I always say that, pepper you with compliments and then the interview will just go downhill from there, sort of thing. So, where you calling from tonight?
I live in Petaluma, California, which is just north of San Francisco, about a half hour.
See, when I was in LA last year, and I kind of assumed that everything was near each other, which is certainly not the case. Because I was trying to contact just like everyone that I knew out there, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll come and see you," and they were like, "Do you have 5 hours to spare in a car?" And so I didn't get to see everyone that I was hoping to see. But yeah, no, California is way just beyond my imagination and scope, and how big it is and ridiculous and vast, and but it was a lot of fun, and I got to go to Charlotte's place as well and see the former Stu studio, which is now just like a storage closet. So yeah, let's talk about would this still be your latest project, your work on glamping in terms of releases?
Yes, that, and then just before that, I finished producing vocals for Eric Martin's new record with Mr. Big.
Oh, cool! That's awesome. So with glamping, did you produce every track?
No, just a handful of vocal tracks. Roger kind of needed to get out of his head and focus more on the music, and left the engineering and kind of critical ear to me. And it went great. I feel really positive. We got some cool new stuff, like stretching out into areas he hasn't really gone in before. And to me, it's like, I love it. I think this is his greatest work in years.
So then that's a major compliment as well, because it was the Land of Pure Imagination album, which introduced me to Jellyfish and everything else, and it changed my world. I took up. I had my production degree because of that album, and I grew my hair long because of Jellyfish. I was a real fanboy for a little bit. I was wearing the Dr. Seuss hats and everything. I had a bubble machine, and every venue that I tried to use the bubble machine in were like, nope, that's not happening because of health and safety. The 3 worst words in modern music, I think. Did you ever have trouble with a bubble machine where people like?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, a different kind of trouble though. I think the main problem with the bubble machine was being the bass player, I had the biggest amp on stage, and it was a great place to put the bubble machine, up so high so the bubbles would fly out across the stage.
Oh, okay.
However, the bubbles so I was always clouded in this little, surrounded cloud of bubbles, and they would come down and pop on my fretboard as I was playing bass. So about halfway through the show, bubbles would just pop all over me, and my fretboard was soapy and slick and caused all sorts of mayhem.
You didn't land flat on your ass, though, on any of the gigs?
No, luckily.
Okay, especially because with those like platform boots that you were undoubtedly wearing as well, it's just health and safety hazard everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
So with glamping, could you tell that it was like a big deal for Roger to hand over the reins and sort of not control everything himself as he had with his previous solo projects?
Yeah, and I think that was definitely a huge change for him. And I think what he did by stepping out of his own way was he gave himself the opportunity to go to the next level of Rogerness.
Okay.
Like the songs are deeper, the performances, since other people play on the record, there's more collaboration, and to me, sonically, it's a little more 3D.
Yeah.
So it takes Roger's ideas and just makes them even more awesome.
Well, is this the first project? Apologies that I should know this, but is this the first thing that you've really worked on with Roger since Jellyfish?
No, there's been a few things here and there. I did some mixes for some of the some tracks he had done over the years. Pink Panther movie soundtrack stuff he did, various songs.
Mm.
But I recorded piano. Actually, I think, now that I think about it, maybe I recorded some of the piano too for that made it to Glamping. I don't know if you replaced those or not, but
Mm.
it was recorded at our mom's and dad's house on their baby grand. Um, yeah.
Nice. I cannot wait for it. With not necessarily with Rogers thing, but with the EP. Do you find that you are not surprised anymore when bands ask for certain things, or do you are you still blown away and just flabbergasted with some of the things that are asked of you as a producer? Like, have you been asked to bring in sort of a camel just to record a camel's breath or something?
No.
Okay. Well, no, a crazy example, but I'm guessing it's always been within the boundaries of common sense and good taste.
Yeah, producing with other people. I just, I'm the type of producer. I find I just become like another band member
Mm-hmm.
for the 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 days. I just try to get inside the project and get right down there eye to eye with the other people that are creating and try to help them um, make the best music
Yeah.
that they can, given the chops and talents and experience I have.
Yeah. Would you say that you have a signature style as a producer, or do you really try and adapt as much as possible to whoever you are working with at the time, sort of thing? Do you try not impose your influence, but sort of is your influence apparent, sort of thing, or again do you kind of blend in with what is kind of going on, sort of thing? And in that sense, also learn something from each project as well.
Yeah, a little more of the latter. I'm more of the chameleon. I try to blend in and you know get into the aesthetic that the band wants to go for. It's exciting for me. It keeps mixing things up. But if you listen to all the work I've ever done, I'm sure you'd say, yeah, it's got Chris's sound, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. Do not sort of, and this isn't a comment on everyone that you worked with, but I guess you have worked with a fair amount of Jellyfish fans as well. And do they kind of expect a certain style based on what they know of you from Jellyfish?
Yeah, there's some of that, although um, very few bands show up actually with the foundation to achieve that,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's songwriting or chops. So it's more honest to just make the record that's right for them.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a photographer and I'm taking a photo of a group of musicians sonically. Um, it would be fake to try to make them something they're not.
Yeah.
So trying to capture who they really are always has the best results. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Are you Paul or Pablo or Toxic? What's your name?
I am Paul. Yeah. What kind of happened was this page, my personal page, was called Toxic Melons, and Facebook were like, nope, that's not your real name, change it. And they were said, unless you are better known as your alias, and the example they gave was Lady Gaga. They were like, no, you have to. So I changed it to Pablo, but yeah, no, it is Paul. But the podcast is called Pablo's Poppin' Podcast, so it rolls off the tongue. I'm a fan of alliteration and all that,
And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Newcastle in the UK. I know Jellyfish played Redcar, which is probably the closest gig to where we were, I think. And that was with you and Jason. I think it was the first lineup that played Redcar.
I think so, because I remember playing Newcastle.
Oh, you played Newcastle as well. Where did you play
Yeah.
Newcastle?
I don't remember the
I
venue.
know that. I know that's asking like a crazy question. What color socks did you wear 25 years ago? Yeah. It may be in the Mayfair or something like that. I have a friend who still has Andy's water bottle from that gig.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and like I know the Jellyfish fans are a little crazy. I can say that because I have 18 different pressings of like Babies Coming Back, an 8-track and all sorts of stuff. So yeah.
You have more than I do.
Oh, dude, like the the girl in the fan club book who has the room with the full collection and everything like that. She aspires to have my collection at this point, but I do have OCD and I did have a student loan. So I did, and a lot of the auctions as well ended at like 3 a.m. And I because it was like in California or the States or something like that, so I would be up at 3 a.m. Buying that the flyer, the Everlasting Globetrotters flyer, and all that kind of thing. And
yeah, cool.
Awesome. It's at that point now where and I love Roger to death, but at the same time, I had to draw the line at buying his pants. And the people did buy them as well, which I find incredible. But I run that Jellyfish page, and no one has come forward to say who has bought his pants yet. So I did say to Roger that it would probably freak him out if everyone who bought his clothes, he just started walking around town and started seeing everyone wearing his gear.
That's hilarious. I was surprised. I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude!" I called him like hours after that open. I'm like, "Dude, almost all the clothes are already gone." It's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, check it out."
Don't underestimate the Jellyfish fan.
No, I'm pondering selling the green and purple striped hat that I'm looking at right now.
Oh well, like I see as a Jellyfish fan, kind of like as a David Bowie fan as well. You would like to think that he kept walking around with a little lightning bolt painted under his chest or something like that. So I do have the image that you are actually wearing that hat in those purple pants. Like those purple pants, I would love to get those pants. I don't know where you got those. Were they denim or were they suede or? I guess
there were purple crushed velvet.
Crushed velvet. Wow. Okay.
There were other purple ones. Yeah, all of those clothes came from mostly from Roger raiding thrift stores in his college years, and so he got all those things for a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there.
One thing I noticed in because I've produced some bands as well, like on a very low level, but in the Jellyfish book that came out, there was a when the chapter on you at the end of the book says that sometimes you've had to act as almost like a counselor for bands as well, and use a lot of your experience and stuff. So I mean, were these like arguments that I'm guessing would literally break out in the studio over creative ideas, and you would just sit there and just go, "Come on," like get together, sort of thing.
Yeah, rarely it's really about creative ideas, although that's the trigger. Usually there's already brewing tensions for whatever reason, and a recording sometimes brings that out.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm really good at it. I'm kind of like, the Boy Scout leader or the den mom or something that just, okay, we got to get through this before we're going to start getting great performances. So let's get it out on the table. 9 times out of 10, everybody's like, somebody offers an idea, and everybody hears that idea in their head differently.
Yeah.
So until it's actually performed and everybody can hear it with their ears, it's just a big confusion. So you get someone saying, "What if we do this?" And other people say, "No, that sounds dumb." But I find if you just say, "All right, let's hear what that sounds like," they play the idea, and everybody is on the same page at that point.
Like when you moved into production, was studio etiquette kind of something that you weren't even conscious of? Not because you're like just some rude asshole or anything, which you're not. Was it just something that it wasn't even an issue sort of thing until you had to start dealing with people who were potentially short in the studio, or angry and hard to deal with, sort of thing?
I think the short answer is, for me, I I stepped into a real studio for the first time in my life when I was in Jellyfish.
Yeah.
One of the greatest gifts out of Jellyfish was that it introduced me to recording, and um, I got to learn first from Albie Galutin and Jack Joseph Puig, and I think it was both of their attitudes. Jack's being like both of them actually being like just super sonically perfect and going the extra mile every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
To Albie Galutin's just really mellow and friendly, encouraging personality, and like I hadn't been in this real studios like that before, so of course I was nervous, and I really found it so helpful and great to have somebody be just like kind and friendly and be like, hey man, that's cool, try it again, or think about it this way, or pull your headphone a little bit off one of your ears and you can hear better. It just loaded with tricks and removing resistances until the music just really started gelling and coming together.
Mm.
So when I got into recording, I became really aware of, you get the best recordings by the tone you set. And Steve Lillywhite taught me a lot, because I worked with him on one of Guster's records, and every day he just came in super positive and super enthusiastic and charged up and ready to make a hit record. And like, people rub off on you, and everyone's your teachers, and some teach you positive things and some teach you things that you're not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that all started in Jellyfish.
Was it I mean, obviously it was a big step to open your own recording studio. I guess you didn't go into it gung-ho. Like, were there a couple of years of really planning it out in your head before you decided to make that leap?
Yeah, I got my start by just walking down to the biggest recording studio in the San Francisco Bay Area, called The Plant.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in there and said, hey, I want a job. And they said, all right, come on and start, sweeping floors, cleaning bathrooms, and vacuuming.
Mm-hmm.
And, a few weeks of doing that, and I was in the control room and assisting there. And so really, like the first 5 or 6 years, I did not go to a recording school, like a proper recording school. I just learned from all the engineers and producers that would come into the record plant,
Mm-hmm.
making records with Santana and Metallica and Guster and huge bands. So just like learning from Albie and Jack, every time a new producer would come in, they've got their bag of tricks.
Yeah.
And I would take detailed notes and I'd learn them all. And after a while, you start to realize you've kind of, you're saturated. You've learned everything that everybody's bringing in, and every now and then there's something new. But that's how I got my start. And then I didn't open my own studio space until after I had completed that stage of learning and understanding how to make a hit record, because you can't do that. You can't make a hit record just because you have a computer. You have to know how to. You have to know how to coax the performances out of people. You got to learn how to tighten up a song and focus on its strengths. So, I try to bring all those years of experience into anything I work on. And nowadays I'm mostly just mixing, because everybody records at home and they don't know what to do with 60 tracks or 80 tracks. And I really enjoy mixing other people's songs these days.
Hmm. Was that when you first moved into production as well? Did you spend a lot of time engineering as well? And was that something that fascinated you as well as the actual mixing side?
Absolutely. Um, I'm the kind of producer who's more of an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and more of a vibe guy or cheerleader, or able to get everyone on the same page. So I work really well with bands, and can always get great, great stuff out of them. I'm not so much the type of producer that works one on one with someone who helps to figure out the arrangements and figure out um, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
I really rely on the collaborative energies of everyone, even the quiet person in the band, you know. And that's how I find my way through the record making process.
As an engineer, did you? I mean, I'm guessing you would have in Jellyfish as well, but did I'm guessing you understood the importance of getting it to sound as right as possible from the engineering aspect, and then the mixing aspect almost takes care of itself because that's kind of the way that I've worked with bands as well to make sure that the mics are perfectly placed, etc. And I know that that's almost like a standard thing, but it's amazing how many people don't really think of that, and then they end up putting like these really crappy effects on and all that kind of thing to make up for what they could have done from an engineering aspect. Was that kind of like a thing that you had always had in mind to really make it sound as good as possible before the mix, if you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the first guys I watched work were Jack Joseph Puig and Albie Galutin,
yeah,
and they wanted it to sound right from the first note coming out of the speakers. Um, it's like you can't fix it in the mix, um, or sometimes you can, but
mm-hmm.
you're painting yourself into a corner if you leave that for the end. Just get it right in the beginning, and the same goes for performing. Like, it's so much better to have someone just play it again and play it right, rather than to go fix the pocket or tune it or do this other stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like a common sense thing, but it's amazing how many sort of younger students, when I was doing my teaching degree, just didn't really take that into account, and it was something that you had to really drive home the importance of, sort of thing. So it kind of validates me to hear you say that as well, because obviously I'm influenced by the band that you were in, and by the production and everything. So like in being from California, does it? I guess it's not something that you take for granted as a producer, but is it something that you don't even get surprised about anymore when you end up working with such big names, sort of thing? I mean, because like it it seems like it would be impossible to almost not work with well-known people being from where you're from, sort of thing, but obviously the talent has to be there from your point of view as well. um was it just kind of, did things kind of just fall into place, and did you feel that you were kind of lucky being in the area that you were from and just having all these fantastic names and talents just come into your life, sort of thing?
Yeah, very lucky. And every new, uh, respected elder musician who comes into the studio and I get to work with them, it's just like beginning all over again. It's so cool because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different approach. Um, some people, some people's approach is completely different from another person's approach, but they're both successful.
Mm-hmm.
And why? So, um, yeah, I totally appreciate where I live and the talent that's all around here. Um, there's a ton of bands too, local bands that are really good as well.
Yeah.
And it can be harder for them to get noticed because there's just so much saturation of talent in this area.
Mm-hmm. When you're working with an artist or a band that could be signed or is potentially recording a hit single, do you have to impart your wisdom and make sure that they aren't kind of like sort of treading on any toes or following stuff that's already out there, sort of thing? Because they want to sound original and they don't want to kind of I guess follow a trend, sort of thing, if you get what I'm saying, and make
Well,
sure
I
that
think everyone's doing that. I mean, the band members, if they're good, they've already been doing that.
yeah.
They're already aware of their specific genre, subgenre, and what other bands are doing it. Before we even get in the studio or before I start even going into band rehearsals, we'll have those discussions and we'll listen to music, we'll trade music and talk about what we like about it and what we want the record to sound like. So everyone's on the same page by the time we get there.
Mm.
And before the first microphone's set up. Yeah, you don't want to regurgitate, some sound that's already tired in listeners' eyes. You want to try and look for those unique, interesting, different things about the person you're working with today,
Mm.
and try to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, and I asked that as well because of again from the teaching course that I did as well. It was a songwriting course, and it was with the intent to teach people how to write commercial music. But at the same time, it's almost like a thing that you can't directly teach because one, I've never written a hit song, and two, you can't really show them stuff that what is out there is obviously out there, and it's easy to I guess copy it to a degree, but that isn't really going to do you any favors, sort of thing.
That's true.
Yeah. With mixing for movies as well, like, is that something that you learned on the fly, or did you have to work with or sit in on like sessions with more experienced people, sort of thing? Like, how did you fall into that?
Yeah, well, what happened was I had always been interested in sound for movies, but it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago. There's a financial recession, and a lot of people just didn't have any budgets to make recordings, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody kind of pulled back, and I was looking for some more stability, but still be able to use the chops and the skill sets I had, like working on the Pro Tools and speakers and microphones. So a buddy of mine, Lefferts, who was working at the plant back in my early days of learning how to engineer, he said, "Hey, why don't you come on up to Skywalker Sound and check it out?" And I was like, "All right, that's kind of cool," but I still wasn't convinced, so I didn't really follow up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Italy and worked with an artist named Ligabue, and he's a very popular, like #1 charting rock and roller in Italy. And I made some records with him and recorded this huge outdoor concert. It was like 100,000 people plus, and they filmed the whole movie, and they wanted to do a surround sound mix for the theater. So they said, you know, we want to do it with you, Chris, at Skywalker Sound in California. And I said, all right. So I went up there to my buddies and I hooked them all up and basically sat through the whole process of taking a finished film and uh, filling in all the post-production sound with my friends up there. And it turned out great. And I realized I really enjoyed it and wanted to learn more. And so I just started hanging out up there, learning from everyone I could. And pretty quickly, I started to get a grasp of the art form of post sound for film. So fast forward to today, I have a pretty good grasp of all the steps it takes and tons of friends and connections. So yeah, I'm working on movies about half the time, and the other half of the time I'm mixing records and mixing EPs and singles of, well, you name it, local people, but I get songs, sent to me from Europe and South America and, just wherever. I'll work with anyone.
That's
It's
really
just
that's really cool. So how big of an effect did Star Wars have on you as a kid? So like, because it must
oh,
be.
it's huge.
Yeah.
I saw that, like probably 11 times as a kid. And then the other movie that really had an effect on me was Jurassic Park.
Uh,
And, just the power of uh, making the dinosaurs sounds, the growls, the howls, the screams, making them so real that they just popped off the screen and became real in my mind when I saw that. So, funny enough, I work with all those guys who did that, and I just got done working on the new Jurassic World movie.
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and I had the great opportunity and joy to work on Star Wars Episode 7. Um,
Yeah, it's so crazy when I like see something like that. I get to name drop you to friends. It's just like I'm shameless with that kind of thing. With Jurassic Park, that was meant to be the first film that I ever saw at the cinema, and we went, and it sold out. And instead, we went to see Dennis the Menace, and one of those films turned out to be a huge box office draw. And we went to see actually. I'd seen Jurassic Park within that time, but then it was like the 20th anniversary, and it was back in the cinema, and everyone gave it a standing ovation at the end. I've never seen that before or since, but I thought it was wonderful.
wow,
Um,
cool.
so with when you say about the dinosaur roars and everything, have you had to have you recorded sound effects and found out ways to create them artificially? And has a lot of it been through sort of your instinct, or like sort of, oh, this sounds like this, so I will try it and see what it sounds like.
Yeah, totally. One of my first jobs at Skywalker Sound was recording and creating new sounds every day with a team of Foley artists. And, um, you're trying to capture the emotional intent on the screen in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's very musical. And then there's the music score going on. So you have to stay out of the way of other sounds, other spectrums of the sound uh, that's on the picture at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much like making records. Although I have to say I do approach it from a much more musical angle and than other people do. And for better or worse, that's just my orientation to picture and sound.
Mm-hmm. With scores for movies in particular, is it just left to you to decide, sort of thing, or are you given like very specific notes on what the writer or the director wants, I guess?
Yeah, a good director, good picture editor, they'll always give you notes,
Yeah.
and they're looking for specific things that they want from you. Oftentimes, we'll meet that or surpass that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different project by project. There's a lot of difference between a big budget blockbuster like Guardians of the Galaxy or a small documentary like something I just finished working on, a movie called The Push, um, or a surfing documentary about Andy Irons.
Uh-huh.
Whether it's a small documentary or whether it's a big budget blockbuster, there's, you can spend more time, or the goals are different.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the same in that you're trying to tell the story, and you're trying to tell the story with the tools of sound in support of the picture.
Yeah. Do you find specifically again with movies and anything that you've done for TV as well, as opposed to being a musician in a band, do you find it almost more satisfying that people don't think about what has gone into, making them feel a certain emotion when the music hits like a crescendo or whatever? They just feel it, and it almost, obviously it matters who's done it, but they just don't think about who was behind it, sort of thing. It's just more about emotion and feeling, and like, do you take great pride in sort of almost being in the background now, and sort of just letting the work the work that you do its own talking, I guess?
I do. That's really where the core of my passion lies,
Mm-hmm.
is, being behind the scenes. In the case of movies, I really get a lot of joy out of subtly playing with the soundscape of the scene or the shot, and subtly, um, you know, making the listener or the viewer feel something that may be a foreshadow of something that's about to happen,
Yeah.
or you can steer the emotions around, that's and play with how it relates to the picture. That's really powerful, and it's the same with music, but just done differently. Like the the main focus of the music is the vocal usually, and the melody and the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all these other layers down inside the mix that you wield a lot of power in helping the listener kind of forget where they are in their room. Maybe they're during a time in their life, or whatever's going on in their life. It's just it's like good medicine. It's like an escape from life in a way.
Yeah.
But
What
hopefully some more.
when you arrange as well, do you kind of have, because it's certainly when I, in particular the Jellyfish Stacker Tracks CD that came out a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
the one thing about there being no vocals on there is that you hear so much more in the arrangement that you would not have picked up on. But if it wasn't there in the final mix, you would know that something is missing, sort of thing. So do you like adding those little Easter eggs yourself, sort of thing, and to the point where they don't even know why they may start crying, halfway through a piece of score music or an arrangement or whatever, but it's because you've added maybe an instrument or something like that, or like a set of harmonies or whatever that just really lifts the song or moves it in a completely different direction, sort of thing. Like, do you like?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And that you don't have too many of those things, um, but you have enough, is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
But also it depends on the band. Like, that totally works to throw lots of bells and whistles in there with a band like Jellyfish, or Queen, or some like real decadent arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
But that type of thing wouldn't fit, a band that's just more basic meat and potatoes, like punk or something.
Yeah. Um, well, that actually leads me to a question from a listener, Bobby Kellis. He asks, what is it like working with metal bands in particular? Um, do you feel that, is there a certain, I'm guessing it's just as work intensive, but in a different way, even though maybe the arrangements are simpler than something else, sort of, you know what I mean, like a more complex sort of pop arrangement.
Yeah, it's the same ideas, the same principles.
Mm-hmm.
The main difference is you're dealing with a much heavier, aggressive emotion, and the tones, distorted guitars. It's a lot denser of a picture.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about how you layer stuff, because you can, things can step on each other pretty quick, and they're very washy, and just huge bombastic drums usually.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the Jellyfish palette, there's so many more levels of, from a harpsichord to clean guitars to hollow body guitars to acoustic guitars, that there's more, I'd say more paintbrushes
Yeah.
in the box. And
Does it blow your mind that like sort of Jellyfish is still getting talked about to this level? I mean, I'm guessing it probably does because
yeah,
because
we're
the
really
thing,
lucky.
I didn't just want to ask you just about Jellyfish, but obviously it's like, you know, it's something that has changed a lot of people's lives, and you know, I'm lucky enough to run the Jellyfish joining a fan page, which somehow has become just this monster. And
Right.
I'm not quite sure how. Originally, it was a petition for a Jellyfish DVD, and then and I realized all of the legal shit that would have to be taken care of to even, you know, because I talked to Bruce Brodeen about the box set and all of the nightmares that he had with that, and I was like, okay, I'll change the group, and then it kind of took off from there. So I mean, because I discovered Jellyfish in 2007, and it was just a coincidence that McFly had released Baby's Coming Back, and it got to #1 in the UK.
Wow.
And that was specifically during that time, and the Jellyfish tribute album was coming out and all that kind of thing. I guess the first project since Jellyfish disbanded was the fan club box set. So at that point, did you feel that it was just a thing to put out there just to appease the fans that didn't feel that there was closure, sort of thing, and you thought that was just going to be the end of it at that point?
I've been blown away at how history has treated us so kindly. Um, you know, you never know. I mean, we're hopping around in these fruity outfits, um, being very derivative in our sound. Um, I would. I always take great pride in XTC,
Mm.
having kind of showed me that, with the Dukes of Stratosphere. But history could have treated us differently. We're really, really blessed and so lucky that not only have um, old legacy fans just continued to carry the torch, but there's like new fans, like I'll meet young teenagers that just discovered us a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and just blown away that we're even relevant in the music scape that's out there. So that's really cool.
Did it kind of when Omnivore were releasing so many things, we just kind of like, holy shit! Like I didn't even realize myself that there was this much that could be brought out, sort of thing.
Yeah, because I don't have a read on who's out there or what they're buying or if there's interest, and apparently they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so fun to see that people were still getting enjoyment out of this intense work that we all did for a few years of our life, that it's still relevant,
Yeah.
that it's still helping to lift people, and that's huge. That's huge. It's just huge.
Did you think that when Craig Dorfman originally contacted you about the book, did you think, like, who's going to read that? Like, sort of thing? Because, like, it's kind of like, the book is kind of like this crazy extra step after, like, the releases and everything. Did you feel, because obviously there's a story to be told, but did you think it was something that would even get off the ground and do as well as it did? And
I don't know. Did it do well?
I think it sold out. I mean, did you learn
Wow. Great.
stuff yourself reading the book that you didn't know about? Because I mean, it was a very open and honest book, and like, to the point where it was just raw at points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
were lawyers called during the making of this book, or was it a pretty amicable experience putting it all together?
I was super uh, um, flattered that somebody wanted to devote their life to figuring out the big tangle of all these stories and try to put it into a readable, entertaining experience for other people to share.
Mm.
Yeah, when I did read it, it was a few months after it came out that I read it. I didn't just jump into it. And when I read it, I thought it was very true and honest.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was a lot of fluff. I thought Craig did a great job and kind of drilled down to the basic essence of what was going on and when. And sure, I did learn a lot, because once I got out of the band, I didn't really pay much attention to the goings on with the new guys. And just, I really focused on my relationship with my brother, Roger, at Christmas time, or if we were going camping or something. That's for me, my experience was, all right, we just went through the roller coaster of this intense band project. Now I want my brother back, and I want to just connect with him like, we were for years of our lives. And I'm so happy and proud to say that today we're super, super close, and we keep in touch and continue to, collaborate on musical projects as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, the names that Roger has all over that EP, and Jason's on it as well. So it's just a massive treat for Jellyfish fans. Even before names like Chris Price and all of the other great names that he's worked with on there. Before we get to a couple of extra questions, I don't want to keep you too long. Was there ever a costume that you were presented with that you were like, no, I'm not even, I'm not wearing that, like, because I'd imagine that would be pretty extreme.
You mean like a costume to wear on stage?
On stage, or for a music video, like, was there even like a step too far for you? Because, like, even within the context of the band, your outfits were pretty out there.
Yeah, no. The funny thing is there was no template. There was nothing to go off of when I joined the band. As a matter of fact, the band had never even dressed up in any, silly way at all. And we had to do our show, and everyone's like, well, what are we going to do? And Rogers I got these boxes of weird clothes, and I was the first one to just dive in and start basically trying to make my older brother laugh.
Yeah.
And as I knew I had discovered my perfect outfit when he just couldn't stop cracking up, and he thought that was awesome. So I got into the fun of it. I think I really loosened up everybody to also have fun with it and dress up and get wild.
Yeah.
But no, there were no record people that ever came to me and said, hey, why don't you try wearing this? Because nobody even knew what we were doing at that point. We were,
and look, I have long hair, and I've played underneath bright lights, especially, and I've tried the Dr. Seuss hat and everything as well. That shit that you wore could not have been comfortable on stage. Like,
no, it was not.
Yeah. Were there any times? Sorry, go for it. Sorry.
Just platforms are the toughest because, between the stage and the backstage room, there's all these staircases and hallways and, metal grates and asphalt and slippery cement. So just getting from the backstage area onto the stage was usually the biggest challenge. And then the bubble machine starts going and you're, dancing around. You got to really learn how to walk in heels. I have so much respect for women who have learned to walk in heels, because you don't walk normally. You have to kind of walk flat-footed.
So what was there ever just a comedically awful sort of technical fault that ever happened on stage that just messed everything up? Because it always seemed that there was a camaraderie between the band and the audience as well, so that if something went wrong, it was fine, sort of thing, because the crowd were just appreciative of the band. Was there anything just absolutely ridiculous?
No epic stories come to mind, but often people would throw hats or shirts or vests or funny clothes up on stage, and we'd wear them for the rest of the show. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any stories there.
But so you wore what anyone threw on stage. So did anyone throw bras on stage or anything like that?
I'm sure that happened a couple times.
But so we can confirm that Chris Manning did not wear a bra on stage at any point during Jellyfish. Um, so do you still play? Do you still sing and write, or have you just moved solely into production now?
I took a break for many years, and I'm really glad I did. Um, Besides that, I lost a lot of my strength and the pads on my fingers. I also kind of returned to a blank slate, and then a few years ago, I picked up the bass again and started rediscovering a love for it. And I'm proud to say that I am currently in a project that your listeners should keep their radar open for, but it's not power pop, and I can't tell you anything more about it other than it's going to be good.
See now and I'm doing this in inverted commas. The journalist in me wants to dig deeper, but when that project comes out, we'll have to maybe talk about it, or maybe you'll be very kind enough to let me play a track or something like that.
Oh yeah, you'll know. There'll be announcements on Facebook and yeah.
Excellent. That's very exciting. Well, Chris, it's kind of weird because anytime I have a musician or someone who influenced me quite a lot, they have something to promote, and you've just kind of done this out of nowhere with really nothing to promote. Is there anything that you would like to plug? Because I feel like I should have really asked you about that, and I haven't, and I'm terrible.
Geez, I think yeah. I guess my only promotion is that you know I love making music and I love making your music sound cool. So if you're out there in your house with your band recording your songs and you want me to mix it, send it over. I'd love to give it a shot.
Excellent. Well, see, and now that's my next album. That's my next album sorted. So you will hear from me.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chris. I again, I didn't want to take up too much time, and a lot of people in the group are very excited because I guess you don't really do too many interviews, and are most of the interviews that you do in long form, are they more like sort of technical interviews that you as a producer sort of thing, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. More from the technical engineering.
Because I did see you on the cover of a magazine. Was it in Italy or Spain or something? Not too long ago.
Yeah, it was in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just ridiculous to you that sort of you end up on the cover of a magazine? Are you huge in Italy?
Oh yeah. Well, I was for like a couple years. I was like the number one charting engineer, which was kind of wow. That's kind of weird and cool, but right on. And they all kind of got into like Chris Manning, the California Sound, but which is kind of silly because I'm not that, but I'm just me. Just trying to make great music with whoever I work with.
Absolutely. So, did you get out to Italy? Because that's somewhere I've always wanted to go.
Oh yes, I did a few times, and it's just a magical place on earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
and I love Italian people too. They're just so cool and so gracious.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really, yeah, that is it's a bucket list thing for me to get out to Italy. So, without digging too deep, and I mean, when was the last time you played on stage? Was it with Jellyfish? Well, I guess you had Honey after that. So
yeah, Honey was the last time I got on stage.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it's not out of the question that you may end up on a stage again at some point, I guess. Am I digging too deep?
No, it's not out of the question. I mean, Jellyfish was a tough band to stay in because of all the inner sort of, dysfunctional marriage type of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the next band I got into, Honey, had even more of those types of issues. So at that point, I was like, you know what?
More than Jellyfish. That's impressive, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just needed to take a break from being married to 4 or 5 other people,
mm-hmm.
and just to go a little slower in life.
Absolutely. And one more question, just sheer curiosity. With the harmonies that you took in the band with the live arrangements and everything, did you take the lower harmonies or the higher harmonies, or was there always a role for you within the 4-part harmony, or was it just whatever worked for a particular song?
Yeah, I usually took the harmonies below the lead melody.
Mm-hmm.
or the lower one, kind of like where John Lennon would sit in his harmonies, or some of those cool Beatles harmonies. I like that. It's where the range of my voice is,
Yeah.
and the other guys, could go high, and that's where it just seemed to fit and work well. Work well.
Was there more of a complexity with the harmonies that Roger and Andy and Jason? Because like, would you say that singing is your main thing as a musician, or would you say that bass is? Like, was Roger like sort of surprised that you could sing, or was he always aware of it?
No, Roger always knew I could sing. We were kids together in various, you know, bands and formations. We played in the school together. Um, yeah, Roger knew I could sing,
Mm-hmm.
but bass is my instrument, and um, singing's I don't. It's not like my main thing,
Yeah.
but I love harmonies. I love stacking harmonies. It's such a powerful piece of a human uh, connection to song. Everyone out there has an instrument, and it's their voice.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of bands who really jumped on that and brought out harmonies and 3-part, 4-part harmonies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely, me too as well. Okay, I keep having questions come to mind, and again, I don't want to keep it too long. There was the story in the fan club book a while ago that you had learned the bass line to "Always Be My Girl." Was that ever played live?
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
I don't know when. I could be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely remember playing that song in rehearsals, and the harmonies and bass lines. If um, if we were rehearsing it, we were probably playing it live at some point.
Yeah, that's intriguing because every so often, like a new bootleg shows up, from someone who was like just randomly at the gig and who joins the page and was like, oh yeah, I was at this, because Adam Gimbel had like compiled an amazing list of like every Jellyfish gig ever sort of thing, and I think. Like between us, we are well on our way to like getting the audio to probably every single gig. So thank God for those who bootleg just about everything at the time.
Well, you'll have to ask Adam. He clearly knows more than I do about it.
Was there ever a plan for a Jellyfish live album at the time, or was that just something that wasn't even discussed?
I'm sure it was discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far those discussions went.
Oh, okay, okay, and one last thing, again, just completely out of curiosity, because you guys played Bye 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 during the Belly Button tour. Did
Yeah.
you? How far did you get with the Spilt Milk stuff?
I was actually part of Spilt Milk musically more than Belly Button. I entered Belly Button after the songs were recorded, so I just began the promotion of it, all the videos, all the touring, and it was during Belly Button and after Belly Button tour that all the Spilt Milk stuff was being worked out and organized, and parts were being written. So musically, more of my ideas actually, yeah, I don't have any musical ideas on Belly Button, but all of my musical ideas made it onto Spilt Milk.
So you are on the demos as well, because that's something I've
Yeah.
never really thought to look at. Ah, okay.
Yeah, the demos.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. And before we go, did you buy anything for Record Store Day?
No, I didn't even know about it. Is
Okay.
that in Newcastle only?
No, worldwide. Because it's American Record Store Day, but I think we assumed it like we did with Black Friday as well. So we don't assume every good American retail thing, but we did assume Record Store Day. And yeah, no, there was a great selection of stuff, but it was just out of interest because a lot of it's like sort of anniversary stuff, and there's very few kind of new releases, but it's the excuse to get something on purple vinyl instead of on green vinyl or whatever, and something for the nerds. Yeah.
Oh, I love the purple and green vinyl. You know how you were with Jellyfish? I was that way with Kate Bush and XTC.
Oh, really?
I collected all the rare vinyl.
Oh, say XTC. Again, one of the biggest gifts that Jellyfish gave me personally was all of the music that they introduced me to, like Badfinger and Nilsson and XTC and all that. And that is just as big of an influence as what Jellyfish and all of you guys have done since then, sort of thing. And I'll be forever appreciative of that. But I do have the one of like 30 purple spilt milk that I had to stay up until midnight to, like an idiot to buy, which I do have framed, etc. So yeah, no, I am a nerd. It's kind of like you try not to come across like Kathy Bates from Misery sort of thing when you talk to your heroes. Like I especially do that because I do have a poster of you on my wall, and that's kind of like probably like a weird thing to like tell someone.
That's cool. Whatever inspires you and helps lift you to have a happier, cool life. That's awesome, Pablo. Awesome. So there you go. And
and I know everyone in the group, the Jellyfish fan page group, is excited to hear from you as well. So thank you, Chris, and I hope we can do this again at some point. And I'll not be quite as rambly, but this is my second interview today as well. It's like some weird mix of interviewing professional wrestlers than interviewing like my favorite musicians. So like my life is just upside down in a complete absolute mess of just
awesome.
of spandex and tie-dye and pinstripes. So yeah, it's a fun time. But yeah, thank you, Chris, and we'll talk again soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Pablo. Have a good day or night.
Nobody knew why she did what she did. Not that she needed a reason to open the lid on her kindness. It's just some would find her a mystery wrapped in a moral enigma. They needed a reason to adhere to the stigma attached to false heroes who did good to better themselves. Their motives would change day to day, corresponding to what made them richer. Could care less, they'll end up in hell. To change the world before her lifetime expired. No complicated reason, just the way she was wired. She lived to serve the earth, no political stance. Religious points of view were of no relevance to her. They dangled the carrot of fame to be tasted. Success was to know that her day wasn't wasted. She'd rather the attention be focused on those less than able to cope with their everyday life. And creatures whose aim was to just stay alive. She tried to ignore all that cynical backlash with pride. But once in a while all that vitriol got to her when all alone. How she cried and she cried and she cried. To change the world before her lifetime expired. No complicated reason, just the way she was wired. She lived to serve the earth, no political stance. Religious points of view were of no relevance to her. And she would carry on in the rain and in the sun. She never stopped till she thought that her mission was too naive for her own. She believed that she just could help Earth breathe how she thought it should. Deceived by brotherhood. Change the world before her lifetime expired. No complicated reason, just the way she was wired. She lived to serve the earth, no political stance. Religious points of view were of no relevance to her.
that was Change the World by me, Toxic Melons, and featuring Linus of Hollywood on vocals and bass. I discovered Linus through the 2006 Fuji Rock concert with Roger, and ever since then, Linus's music has blown me away, and he's still releasing stuff of the highest caliber, and I hope to get him on the show quite soon. And in that band was also Aaron Kaplan, and I interviewed him which is in the archives as well, and got to spend time with him in LA, and we've become good friends since then. So yeah, pretty cool. Again, if you like what you heard, do check out toxicmelons.bandcamp.com, and I really, really appreciate it. So I hope I didn't sound too not nervous, just awkward, because I'm a very awkward interviewer, but I tried to make it natural as possible. But when you try to make something natural, it probably doesn't come across too natural. But it was a lot of fun to talk to Chris, and he did whip out his hat that he wore on the Belly Button album cover as well. So yeah, coming up on Turnchuckle, the wrestling podcast, I have interviews coming up with Bad Boy Barry Hardy, who wrestled in WWF for years and years and years. Wrestled every name you can think of. Not the biggest name in the world, but wrestled on TV on a weekly basis and has some great stories to tell. And I will also be interviewing the magazine writer who also co-authored books by Freddie Blassie and Billy Graham and the WWE Encyclopedia, Keith Elliott Greenberg, who also, I didn't realize how far his career extended into all sorts of things, like New York Times bestseller, and I'm very honoured to be able to chat to him, and it will be a very, very nerdy conversation for wrestling fans out there. So yes, I hope you enjoy them, and I'll be interviewing people, a lot of musicians in connection with Big Stir Records. I do check them out, and some hopefully some really cool surprise guests coming up soon. I'm not going to give too much away yet, but subscribe and you will be the first to find out. Also, join Pablo's Poppin' Podcast on Facebook, and when I announce a guest, you can ask a question and I will ask it on the show. So, I hope that's a thing that may interest you. So thank you again, and I will see you all next time.
Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.